welcome to the What If Ask AI channel. On this channel, we ask multiple AI services what if questions. The what if questions was made back in my childhood when I was asked to put all my questions in a binder because my family was tired of me asking them all the questions I had in mind. Now, later in the future, I'm taking the questions I made from my childhood and asking the AI services the questions and reviewing and judging their responses. I hope you enjoy this channel.
And welcome back to the What If Ask AI channel, and today we are looking at this question right here. What if the Super Bowl game was going on, someone was about to score a touchdown, then the whole city's electricity went off? As always, I have two examples of what if questions with answers to help give the AI services something they're looking for. And the AI services I'll be using today are ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Perplexity, Duck AI, and Typefully. So let's get started by asking ChatGPT this Super Bowl question right here. Alright, so here is ChatGPT's answer. Well, that would be one incredibly dramatic moment. Everyone would be left wondering what just happened. The game would have to be paused, and millions of fans would probably be sitting in the dark waiting to see whether the power comes back on. Alright, now we're going to ask Google Gemini that same question. What if the Super Bowl game is going on, someone is about to score a touchdown, then the whole city's electricity went off? Okay, here's Google Gemini's answer. That would instantly turn the biggest sports event of the year into absolute chaos in a historic television moment. If a citywide blackout hit right as a player was about to score a touchdown in the Super Bowl, here's how things would likely unfold. Massive confusion. Millions of fans watching live on TV would assume their cable went out, while the 70,000 plus fans inside the stadium would be plunged into darkness or emergency backup lighting right at the cliffhanger of the play. The inconclusive play debate. Depending on whether the player crossed the plane before the power died, sports analysts and fans would spend decades arguing whether the touchdown actually counted. A historic repeat. It would immediately bring back memories of Super Bowl, I don't know what number that is. I think that's 68 or maybe 58 or 57. I think it's 57 in 2013 when a partial power outage at the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, New Orleans delayed the game for 34 minutes. Only this time on an entire city-wide scale. Logistical nightmares. Security, stadium evacuations, traffic control, public safety officials would instantly shift into emergency response mode across the affected metropolis. That would certainly make for the most unforgettable ending in sports history. Alright, now let's ask Perplexity that same question. What if the Super Bowl game is going on, someone is about to score a touchdown, then the whole city's electricity went off? Alright, here's Perplexity's answer. That would be an incredibly dramatic, chaotic moment, instantly turning a national spectacle into a scene of confusion and disbelief. Immediate on-field confusion. The game would come to an abrupt halt. Without stadium lights, the field would be plunged in the darkness, making it impossible for players, officials, and broadcasters to see. The scoring play would be immediately nullified or put under extreme review once power was restored, as the officials would not have been able to properly officiate the end of the play. Broadcast and viewer experience. For the millions watching at home, the broadcast would cut to black or switch to a technical difficulty screen. Social media would explode with speculation and confusion as viewers in other cities would still have power and be wondering what was happening in the host city. Stadium and crowd reaction. Inside the stadium, the crowd's reaction would likely shift from excitement to concern or even panic, depending on how long the outage lasted. Stadium security would immediately activate emergency protocols to ensure crowd safety and prevent injuries in the darkened venue. Game resumption and rules. According to NFL rules, if a game is interrupted by an event like a power outage, officials would work to restore conditions safely. If the outage was brief, the game could resume after a delay. If it was prolonged, the game could be suspended or resumed at a later time or date. The touchdown in question would be subject to official review once video and lighting were restored to confirm whether the player actually scored before the outage. Broader implications. A citywide blackout during a Super Bowl would be a massive news event, raising questions about infrastructure reliability and emergency preparedness. It would also become one of the most memorable moments in Super Bowl history, regardless of the final outcome of the game. Alright, now we're going to ask Duck AI that same question. What if the Super Bowl is going on, someone is about to score a touchdown, then the whole city's electricity actually went off? Alright, here's Duck AI's answer. I'd say the game would be temporarily paused, the fans would be frustrated, and everyone would eagerly wait to find out whether the touchdown play would be reviewed or replayed once the electricity came back on. Alright, now here's Type Foley. We're going to ask you that same question. What if the Super Bowl is going on, someone is about to score a touchdown, then the whole city's electricity went off? Okay, here's Type Foley's answer. The stadium would go dark mid-play, creating chaos. The game would pause immediately. Backup generators would likely kick in within seconds. If they failed, the NFL would suspend play, potentially moving to another venue or rescheduling. Fans would be frustrated, but player safety comes first. The touchdown wouldn't count until play officially resumed. Okay, now I have my rankings for the AI services, and 5 being the worst and 1 being the best. So for number 5, I put Duck AI. Overall, I gave a good response, 1 sentence, just like my sample statements. But some of the other services, even though it was longer, it gave a lot to think about. So that's why I put Duck AI as number 5. And then for number 4, I had put Type Foley. And the reason I put Type Foley as number 4 was because it mentioned a lot more things like backup generators would kick in, and then also it mentioned that player safety comes first. They risk their lives for our entertainment, so I do agree with that. And then it mentioned that until the play continues, the touchdown wouldn't count until they have another look. So that's why I put Type Foley as number 4. And then for number 3, I put ChatGPT. And ChatGPT, the reason I put it as number 3 was because it mentioned how fans would be sitting in the dark, waiting to see whether the power comes back on. And then the fans most likely that are watching, not physically there, be left wondering what happened. So it would be one incredibly dramatic moment, and I like how it said that at the beginning. So that's why I put ChatGPT as number 3. And then number 2, I had put Google Gemini. And I put it here for a few reasons, because it mentioned a lot of things. So it mentioned how people would be confused watching, and then people would be like, depending on how the play went, they would have been like, if the power would have never went out, that would have definitely been a touchdown that might have caused that team to either lose or win or something like that. So it would be a good argument for a long, long time. And then I do want to say something. I mentioned that the Super Bowl event that it mentioned that had a partial power outage was in 2013. I said that was Super Bowl 57 or something like that. I looked up the Roman numeral. This is actually 47. So I just wanted to mention that. And then, but yeah, I like how Gemini mentioned that, and then how logistically, security and emergency people would have to be there just to help people and stuff like that. So definitely it would be not a good situation to be in. So I would say that's why I put Gemini as number 2 and mentioned all those things. And then 1, I put Perplexity, and it gave me a ton of information, kind of similar to Gemini, but there's a lot of things to think about, like what happens on field, what happens in the stadium, in the crowd. And then also it talks about the NFL rules and then how the game could resume after delay or it could be suspended if it's after a longer time. So I like how it brought that into character as well. So once again, my rankings is the following. Duck AI is 5, Typefully is 4, ChatGPT is 3, Gemini is 2, and Perplexity is 1. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.